What did the Democrats get out of the deal? They got a raise to the debt ceiling, but that's
Yes, because
not
the
a Democratic
Democrats should take
priority.
care
That
about
is,
the integrity of this country, which the Republicans have proved time and time again that they don't.
they do not care about it.
Have you ever wanted a podcast that did it all? Sports, politics, world events. Well, you have come to the right place, because you are listening to C&C Talks.
Hello, I'm Colin,
And I'm Charlie.
and welcome to the C&C Talks podcast. This is episode 18 of season 2, and Charlie, it is good to be back after sort of a week off. We did not have a normal episode last week. We instead talked about the anniversary of the Uvalde shooting, but we have a full episode this week and a lot to get into.
Yes, we do. And just a reminder, as you do every week, we release every Wednesday, except not this week because of the holiday on Monday. We'll be releasing on Thursday, and we talk about politics, world events, and sports. It is currently Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, at about 9 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, and coming up on this first section of C&C Talks, where we get into all the latest news from politics and the entire world, we're talking specifically about the debt ceiling deal that was brokered between Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden. We'll talk about the impeachment of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. We'll talk about Ron DeSantis officially launching his presidential campaign, and it did not go well as he launched it on Twitter. And we will talk about Montana banning TikTok, as well as the election just held in Turkey, the runoff election there that could have major implications for NATO. But Charlie, let's start with this debt ceiling deal brokered between Biden and McCarthy.
Yeah, this, of course, is huge because if it does get passed, which it is likely to, it will prevent the U.S. from defaulting on its debt, which would, if the U.S. had defaulted on its debt, would have caused major global economic problems, particularly for the U.S., and it would have lowered the U.S.'s credit limit as well as credibility.
Yeah, so obviously a very fluid situation. It will certainly be a very different situation when this episode is out Thursday morning than it is right now when we're taping this Tuesday evening, roughly 9 p.m. But as what we know as of now is that the House Rules Committee approved the bill going to the floor for debate. That happened Tuesday night in a very narrow vote. So there will be debate on the bill on the floor. There will be a vote on final passage on the floor. It will likely pass the House. McCarthy claims that he can deliver about 2/3 of his caucus to vote for it. I'm kind of doubtful that he can deliver that many votes. I do think that this is a bill that the majority of the Democratic caucus will vote for. We shall see, but I fully expect that this bill will pass the House. I expect that this bill will pass the Senate and will be signed by Biden. Now, the question is, will it pass the Senate in time? Because we're right up against the deadline, Charlie. The deadline, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, expects the U.S. to default on June 5th, so it would need to be passed very soon, and it's unclear if it can be passed that soon. So that raises some other concerns. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, considering how notoriously slow Congress can be.
Absolutely, Congress very notoriously slow. But Charlie, we mentioned a deal brokered between Biden and McCarthy. Democrats wanted just a clean raise of the debt ceiling, as has been done numerous times throughout history, including during multiple Republican administrations. The Republicans are not actually the how should I put it, fiscally responsible party that they claim to be. Under Donald Trump, the national debt went up roughly $8 trillion. Trump's presidency accounts for more than a quarter of the total debt in U.S. history. Meanwhile, under Biden, the deficit is quickly being lowered. It's the same thing during the Obama administration, and by the end of the Bill Clinton administration, the deficit was actually in the negative. So the government was bringing in more money than it was giving out. So Republicans, despite their hypocrisy, they say that we need to be fiscally responsible. We're only going to raise the debt if you attach these strings. So they passed their own bill that had no chance of actually getting signed into law. McCarthy sat down with Biden to negotiate, and they came to a deal. And it really feels like, Charlie, that Republicans did not get nearly as much as everybody expected them to, including other Republicans expected the Republicans to get a lot more in this deal.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting to see how well Biden did in the negotiations to get really a lot of what he wanted. He didn't give up too much, I don't believe.
It didn't give up too much. I will, though, say it does in some ways feel wrong to call it a deal, because generally a deal implies that both sides actually get something. This was really a hostage situation, and the Democrats paid for it, though not as much as they were necessarily expected to have to pay for it, right? What did the Democrats get out of the deal? They got a raise to the debt ceiling, but that's
yes, because
not
the
a Democratic
Democrats
priority.
take care
That is
about the integrity of this country, which the Republicans have proved time and time again that they don't.
they do not care about it, right? I guarantee you, there are members of the Republican Party, won't say it's all, won't even say it's most. There are members, I'm specifically looking at the Freedom Caucus, who would not mind if the U.S. defaulted on their debts. In fact, Donald Trump said that the U.S. should default. A former president of the United States said that they should default on their debts. He's the front runner.
Unbelievable. Let's move to Texas now, where Attorney General Ken Paxton has been impeached. Exactly why was he impeached, and what does this mean moving forward to 2024?
Yeah, everything. It means, well, no, he was impeached for just about anything that you could possibly think about. Abuse of public trust and bribery were the charges laid out. He did some very shady things, allegedly had an affair with a state senator. His wife is also a state senator. She was not the one he had an affair with, obviously. He also allegedly attempted to avoid having 2.5 million ballots being counted in the 2020 presidential election. Might I remind you, Charlie, that Donald Trump only won Texas by about 600,000 votes?
Huh, interesting.
Very, very interesting. So, guys, I would hold for a minute when we say no, Democrats shouldn't focus on Texas in 2024. They absolutely should, because for all we know, it actually was blue in 2020. And it's not like Ted Cruz is this unstoppable force.
He's not.
We know he's unpopular. Everyone knows that because he's Ted Cruz.
Yeah, it's just the fact that some people still trust that guy is just ridiculous.
Well, they do. I mean, that's the scary thing. I saw a meme actually earlier today that, Charlie, I think actually reflects reality in a lot of ways. How Canadians see U.S. elections. It's like 50.1% vote in favor of like not killing dogs, and 49.9% of people vote permanent diarrhea for everyone.
Yeah, basically.
I think that sums up the U.S. But however, Ken Paxton impeached in a landslide. He will have a trial in the Senate, in the state Senate. However, Texas law different from U.S. law. He is temporarily suspended from being attorney general until the Senate trial resolves itself one way or another.
And no matter how this ends up, this really does significantly harm his chances of winning in 2024.
2026, actually.
2026.
2020,
He was reelected in 2022 then.
Yes, he was reelected in 2022. I would also bet that he will be convicted by the state Senate. This seems pretty serious. The one thing I do find really interesting is most national Republicans are actually siding with Ken Paxton on this. The state Republicans are turning on him. They're not listening to the national party. Fascinating.
Yeah, that certainly is. Now let's move to an even bigger fiasco, Ron DeSantis' presidential announcement on Twitter.
It feels like his campaign is over before it even began, Charlie.
Oh yeah, it certainly does. I think it's over at this point.
He's losing by 40 points in the polls to Trump, by the way.
Yeah, this was an absolute disaster. There was a bunch of glitches. It crashed at one point, I believe.
Yeah, so for those that do not know, DeSantis decided to launch his presidential campaign for no particular reason on Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk. What could go wrong?
A lot of things, as it turns out.
Quite a bit went wrong. Actually, you know what? Everything went wrong, actually. There were glitches, people talking that were supposed to be muted. The servers allegedly melted because there were so many people. It was pretty bad, and then Musk also wanted to talk more about Twitter and Tesla than about DeSantis. It was bad.
Yeah, definitely disaster. So I think that's the last of the presidential announcements on Twitter, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's humiliating for DeSantis. I feel like it's got to be even more humiliating for Elon Musk, though.
Yeah, considering the app that he now owns couldn't even handle a live stream properly.
Yeah, his platform is a disaster.
I mean, we already knew that.
Well, sure, but like, what's he doing? I was listening to that Twitter Spaces live. I almost couldn't believe that it was actually happening because it was so funny.
I didn't actually see it, but I saw clips from it, and it did sound like a pretty funny occurrence.
Yeah, it was. I doubt many candidates will announce on Twitter Spaces in the future. Though speaking of other candidates, Tim Scott now officially in the race for president. So congratulations to him on maybe getting 1% of the vote in the Republican primary if he's lucky.
Yeah, I think he would have to get lucky to get that amount. Now let's move to an interesting constitutional question, because Montana has now banned TikTok. So what does this mean for the First Amendment?
Yes, I mean, it's complicated. I don't see how it violates the First Amendment, though. There will be arguments made. I think that the U.S. can ban an app if it can make a legitimate argument that it is a danger, I guess.
Yeah, if it is genuinely deemed a danger to the functioning of this country because we're being spied on, possibly, then I can imagine why they would want to ban it.
No, I mean, the spied on part is stupid because it's not like China doesn't have plenty of other ways to spy on us. Like, hello,
Yes,
iPhone.
That's a very good point.
But I think also some of it has to do with the fact that the Chinese government is intentionally promoting content intended at pretty much destroying the United States or the people in the United States to our people, right?
Yeah, that is a good point.
But it's not just 90% of the videos on TikTok are the milk crate challenge or the blackout challenge, right? They make up a small percentage of the videos on the platform, but China's intentionally promoting those videos, and they're very dangerous. I mean, the blackout challenge killed a lot of people.
Yes, and you also have people who are stealing cars because they saw it on TikTok.
It makes you dumber. I don't use it. I'm probably never going to, but I use something that's definitely worse, which is Musk's site.
Yes, the Musk app.
The Musk app. You should just rename it that. Musk app.
Yeah, I think I'll ping him on Twitter later.
Has anyone tried emailing press@twitter.com recently?
I haven't. Let's move to a slightly more serious topic.
Wait, Charlie, because I'm actually curious. I want to know if it will still just send back a poop emoji to whatever you send it.
I don't know. Let's see.
We don't have time to actually test it.
All right, we'll try that when we're done recording. Let's move to a more serious topic now. Turkey had their rerun of the election, shall we say, the runoff.
Runoff, yeah.
Erdogan won, and it wasn't very close.
It was not very close. I don't think that it was a big surprise. Did he win legitimately? Probably.
Hard to say.
He probably won legitimately. It probably was not by the margin that he claimed it was, but he probably did win legitimately. What negative consequences, or just consequences in general, Charlie, will this have on Turkey, NATO, the world as a whole?
Well, this seriously deflates Sweden's chances of vacating the NATO because, as I've said previously in a couple of previous episodes, Turkey is concerned about the Kurdish political parties in Sweden, so they have not allowed Sweden to join NATO. That's actually the reason that they've used for not allowing Sweden to join NATO. So the chances of Sweden now making it into this alliance seems increasingly unlikely.
Yeah, all the other Scandinavian countries are in NATO, unless I'm mistaken.
You are correct.
Yeah. Finland was just recently let in. Sweden says that they are resuming talks with Erdogan now, but it still, at least at the moment, seems like a long shot. That is a very interesting development to keep an eye on because that has major world implications. Well, Russia-Ukraine is there progress in either direction right now, Charlie?
I don't believe so. I believe it's been a lot of artillery and a lot of drone strikes on both sides, but I haven't actually seen any big updates in the last few weeks.
Yeah, so where does Ukraine go from here? Because if they did not with the counteroffensive, and it seems like maybe there's some small progress, but it doesn't seem to be, at least not yet, the huge reclaiming of their territory that we thought it would be. Where do they go from here?
It's interesting because we keep hearing reports. Okay, here comes the big counteroffensive. No, here it is. And it just keeps seeming like it's either being pushed back or they're not quite sure exactly what's going on. It just seems really weird to me because it seems like it keeps getting pushed back and there's a lot of confusion about whether it's actually happening or not.
It feels a lot like a stalemate, as we've been saying for months that it mightn't be.
Yep, just a reminder, you're listening to C&C Talks podcast. Thank you for listening. Let's move on to sports.
Yeah, and we have a very, very busy sports section. We'll talk about the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, very interesting conference finals in both of those leagues, NBA and NHL. NFL legend Jim Brown died. We'll discuss that. Some more NBA news, NBA draft lottery. Doc Rivers being fired by the 76ers. Car racing, PGA Championship, whole lot more. Charlie, let's start with the NBA playoffs.
Let's get into it. I believe last time we left off, we were discussing the end of the semifinal results, correct?
Yes, and now we're discussing the end of the conference finals. Let's start in the Western Conference.
As expected, it was not close. Denver rolled over LA. None of the games were close.
They're just superior. They are a very, very well put together team right now. They are.
So Denver and the state of Colorado actually have a chance to win something.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we keep hearing like, well, ESPN should talk more about Denver and not about the Lakers and LeBron James. I get that, but also, what else is there to say at this point about the Nuggets? They're a very good team. Jokic is amazing. What else needs to be said?
Yeah, so the final question I think in the West is that it? Is that the final playoff run for LeBron James?
I don't think he's retiring.
I don't think so either.
I just don't see it happening. I think he'll make it back to the playoffs. Can he go deep again? Probably not. Maybe. Does it matter? He's had a legendary career. He has 4 rings, 10 finals appearances, 4 finals MVPs.
And on the other side, on the East, Heat take the first 3 games. Celtics fire back by winning the next 3. And then the Celtics just fall apart in Game 7.
Yeah, they did. So let's start by let's talk about the winners. Talk about playoff Jimmy to start, Charlie.
He is unstoppable.
He's really impressive. I also think Eric Spoelstra deserves a lot of credit. He is, I think, one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the National Basketball Association right now.
Yeah, you could definitely make an argument for that.
Yeah, and then also let's remember, they did this, the Heat, they went on this run without Tyler Hero and without Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, that is definitely something that has to be mentioned. Another performer who I want to talk about, who had a great series, especially a great Game 7, was Caleb Martin.
Oh, absolutely incredible. What he was able to do this series.
I believe he threw down 26 in Game 7.
Yeah, some big-time performances. I think, personally, he probably should have been Conference Finals MVP. The honor went to Butler. I'm not annoyed. They were both great. I just think that Martin was slightly better. On the other side, Charlie, the Celtics. Is it time to break up the duo of Tatum and Brown?
I think so, but I don't think it's their biggest problem.
So what is? I think that coaching is a big issue.
I think the problem was coaching. I think if they still had Ime Udoka, they would have made the finals.
Ime Udoka now the coach of the Rockets, I believe. Coaching, I think Joe Mazzulla was just clueless. It's not like they have talent. I think I saw on it might have been Charles Barkley that said something like the Celtics won games just off of pure talent, right? They didn't have plays, right? They could absolutely have made the finals if they had competent coaching. They just didn't. Move on to the Stanley Cup playoffs now. Actually, before we do that, Charlie, prediction. NBA Finals.
This is tough. It's a question of did the Nuggets get too much rest? Did that momentum from sweeping LA fall out? Because I think the rest is good. I think momentum is even more important than rest. I might regret this. Give me Boston. Give me Miami at 7.
Wow. Okay. I get the point that you're making there. Actually, with the amount of, I think that the amount of rest could actually hurt Denver. Absolutely. I think Miami's going to win game 1. I think that's all they're getting, though. Give me Denver in 5.
All right. And then real quick, while we're on the topic, let's get to the draft lottery.
Yeah. So I'll read you the full order. And then we can react. San Antonio Spurs getting the number 1 pick, then the Hornets at number 2, Trailblazers at number 3, then the Rockets, the Pistons, the Magic, Pacers, Wizards, Jazz, Mavericks, Magic, Thunder, Raptors, Pelicans is the full order. Let's start at the top there, Charlie, with the San Antonio Spurs.
San Antonio Spurs get it again.
It's a big pickup for them.
They were the 3rd worst team in the league.
They were one of the worst. It might have been 3rd worst. Gonna have the chance to draft Victor Wembanyama. We know that they can develop. Right? They have Greg Popovich. I think it raises the question of, is Greg Popovich going to ever retire?
No. By the way, just a little bit of something that I wanted to add here. You may have noticed Orlando has 2 picks on here, the 6th and the 11th pick. The 11th pick is Chicago's.
Yes, that is correct. Also, Charlie, your Hornets falling short. of number 1.
As usual.
Yeah.
I think a team that got even more unlucky was Indiana. I believe they were the worst team in the league.
No, that was Detroit.
Yes.
Detroit.
Yes, right.
Really unlucky, right? Their entire strategy has just been tank, right? And
didn't work.
they got the 5 pick out of it, same as they got last year. I mean, they drafted Jaden Ivey last year, so who's to complain there, I guess? But no Wembanyama
We'll
for
see.
them.
Maybe they can tank better next year.
You could get the feeling that they're going to try. They're the Detroit Pistons, after all.
All right, now let's move to some NFL news. Running back Jim Brown has died.
Yes, absolute legend.
Yeah, what a player!
One of the best running backs ever play the game, and an important person off the field as well, despite an issue we won't get into too much here.
Yep. Now let's move to some baseball news now.
But Charlie,
Sorry?
you completely forgot about the Stanley Cup.
Indeed, I did. The Kraken are eliminated, so I don't really care anymore. But all right, let's get to the Stanley Cup. The finals are set. It is Vegas against Florida.
Yeah, Vegas. They went up 3-0 in the Western Conference finals against Dallas. Dallas battled back, took a couple. Vegas put up a dominant performance in Dallas in Game 6 to finish off that series. Joe Pavelski, again, sensational for the Stars. Florida, underdogs. They keep on doing it. It took them just 4 games to sweep aside the Carolina Hurricanes and punch their ticket.
What on earth is going on in Southern Florida?
I don't know. It's amazing. Also, quick stat, Charlie. The city of Boston became the first city to ever lose 2 Game 7s at home to 8 seeds in the same year.
Who was the other? Oh, Yep. Yes, you're right, because NHL.
Yeah, the Bruins blew it. Boston blew it. And all I can say is L.
Yeah. All right.
Prediction?
Knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen from these teams, I'm gonna do identically what I did last time. Give me Florida in 7.
Yeah, so I feel like with every Cinderella story, like we're seeing with the Panthers, there comes a time when they fall back to earth. They eventually get knocked out. And I so badly want to say that I think that that's going to happen. But I just don't think it's going to. I think that this is the exception, that the Florida Panthers are red hot. They have been for a while. Give me them in 7 as well.
All right. Now let's move to the final little section here. We have just some little bit of miscellaneous news. The Oakland A's, who can't do anything apparently, have even more disasters with their new Las Vegas stadium idea. Can we get exactly more on what happened there?
Yeah, so it's kind of been pinging around where the exact location in Vegas. Right now, they've settled on a place on the Strip. But only hold 30,000 seats, though, Charlie, which is not great.
No,
the smallest stadium in the league.
Yes, for a park, an MLB-sized park, 30,000 is quite small.
Quite small. They do have a problem, though, which is that the Nevada State Legislature doesn't necessarily want to pay that. The Nevada State Legislature is willing to give them, at the moment, about $175 million. The A's are asking for roughly $375 million. So more than double what Nevada is offering them. So this feels like it could fall apart very quickly.
Yeah, it seems like it could. And the question then becomes, what do the A's do now?
Well, Staying in Oakland doesn't seem to be an option, but real quick, the current plans say that the stadium in Vegas, if it gets approved, would open in the spring of 2028. That's a while.
Yeah, that's far too long, and I believe their current contract is over at the end of next season.
I think it might be end of 25, but it's coming up. So where do they play?
They could take their AAA stadium, which I believe is also in Nevada. I believe it's in
Yes.
Reno.
Yes, but is that a viable option? Is it viable for a major league team to play at a AAA stadium? I know that the Toronto Blue Jays did it, but that was due to special circumstances. I'm not sure that these qualify. We'll see what Manfred has to say on the subject.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Meanwhile, the 76ers have fired their head coach, Doc Rivers. They've hired Nick Nurse as their new head coach. What are your thoughts on this move, Charlie?
I think it is a good move. Nurse has proven that he can win championships. He did it with, I believe he did it with Toronto.
Toronto, yes.
He's shown that he can do it, and I think this is a great move by the 76ers.
Yeah, we've also heard that Nurse was a finalist in, or maybe was even offered the job in Phoenix. If
Yeah, I heard that tossed around before.
If he did indeed choose Philly over Phoenix, I think that says a lot about where the Phoenix Suns are right now. They've got the stars, but they've got some decisions to make. And also, from what I've heard, Kevin Durant, maybe not the greatest guy to coach.
No. I did want to add real quick. I was just looking some things up. So far through this part of the season that's been completed for baseball, the A's have averaged 8,421 fans, and Reno's stadium can hold 9,534. So it would work.
In theory, yes, it would work. I think Reno could actually sell out that ballpark every night, though.
They could. They probably would be able to.
Yeah. So a few more things to get through. Let's talk about Trevor Bauer. This is a very interesting story, Charlie.
Yeah, because what a disaster the last few years have been for this guy.
Then self-inflicted too. Let's not forget that.
Very much self-inflicted. He got injured, the cheating scandal,
and the sexual assault.
And the sexual assault, which we talked about on this show a few months ago.
So now he's playing for a team in Japan. When he went there, he posted the video, "Why I Chose to Play in Japan," on his YouTube channel.
I don't think he chose to.
Yeah, no, everyone saw right through it. He would have loved to play in the major leagues. No one wanted him. Well, just a couple days ago, Charlie, he posted a very different video on his YouTube channel. It was titled, "Why I Decided to Play in the Japan Minor Leagues."
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Man, this is not going well.
No, he is not a good pitcher in Japan.
I mean, was he a good pitcher anyways? Because he was cheating.
Yes, but even then, it's not like you can. It's not like you can just rely on cheating to win, right?
No,
you actually have to have a lot of talent.
Well,
right?
you can
He
be
was elite.
Okay, I count to your point by saying the Houston Astros.
No, but the Houston Astros are still one of the best teams in the league. You can't deny it. They just won another World Series. They've been to, 3 of the last 4 World Series.
Yes, but the one of the 2 that they've won, they didn't deserve to win.
Sure, but they were still a really good team, even if they didn't cheat.
Matt, what is going on? Now the roles are flipped. Now you're the Astros defender. What's going on here?
I'm not defending them. I still think that the title is illegitimate. But I'm just saying, why would they cheat? They didn't need to.
All right, looks like we're out of time for this episode. So, Colin, lead us out.
Yes, make sure that you subscribe. New episodes every Wednesday, available anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Visit our website, cctalks.net, which is everything you need to know about the show, and call us with your questions at 360-389-2630. Again, that's 360-389-2630, and follow us on Twitter at C&C Talks Podcast. So a few things we didn't get to on today's show. We meant to talk about golf, Monaco, the Indy 500. We'll talk about those things on next week's episode. But for now, for our producer Morris, our production designer Zack, and our proof editor Drake, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie. See you next week.
Thanks for listening.